Hey guys, welcome back to Rivian Updates. Gen 2 Quad is on its way July 8th. I am pretty excited, and Rivian has introduced the Gen 2 Quad announcement with K-Turn, which seems to be the successor of Tank Turn. Now, apparently, years ago, Rivian patented what they call K-Turn, which isn't Tank Turn, which, right, with torque vectoring, moving each wheel in a different direction to be able to have the vehicle spin in 360 degrees plus, have a vehicle do a full rotation. Instead, with K-Turn, it just has the rear wheels lock and the front wheels spin forward, or backwards, which will have it either move left or right. I'm hoping I'm getting that right. But the point is, the K-Turn is not a full 360 degree plus turn like the original Tank Turn that we saw when Rivian was teasing their Rivian vehicles, right? Particularly the Gen 1 quads. It was expected that we were gonna get a Tank Turn on the Gen 1 quads, but we didn't get a Tank Turn on the Gen 1 quads. But Gen 2 quads, Quad Max, we are getting a turn of sorts, but called K-Turn, kick turn.
Let's do it.
But I'm curious to know, for you Gen 1 quad owners watching, how do you feel about Rivian introducing Tank Turn? I mean, the Tank Turn video, I'm pretty sure is Rivian's most viewed video. 2.9 million views 5 years ago. It's a pretty big video, and I think that's what a lot of people know Rivian for, and, well, Rivian never came out with it. And while Gen 2 quad owners are getting a turn, Gen 1 quad owners aren't getting anything, which I feel kind of bad about. It makes me think of all the other things Rivian has introduced but has not actually done. But with that being said, right, we aren't getting a full Tank Turn, but the Gen 2 quads are getting a K-Turn, which is pretty neat. And so Rivian also showed this teaser here on screen you're seeing of the quad vehicles on Instagram, and then they have this video on their website. But we have all kinds of information now about the quad, right? 2.5 second sub, 2.5 seconds 0 to 60 is what we're expected. I think it's over 1,000 horsepower, if I'm getting that right. Over 1,100 pound-feet of torque, right? It's Rivian's Ascent motor. So for those who aren't aware, right, my Rivian is a dual motor. It has regular silver accents. So behind the caliper, behind the wheel covers here, aero covers, you'll see a silver caliper, and there is no color accent. On the Gen 1 quads, it was yellow calipers, yellow accents. The Gen 2 Tri, it's also yellow accents, but on the quad, it's blue accents. And the Tri uses one Enduro motor, one Ascent motor. The Enduro motor is the first motor drive unit that Rivian developed in-house. And yeah, I mean, something that they built, designed, ground up, and is manufactured in Normal, Illinois. Same thing with the Ascent motor. The Ascent motor is designed, built, and I believe most of it is it's assembled in-house. The Ascent motor, right, is a drive unit that has two motors, and it controls each wheel independently. The Enduro motor is, I guess, single axle, if I'm getting that correctly, right? And each wheels are locked. And so they're same power for both of them. And so, yeah, that's what kind of separates the two. The quad, unlike the dual, which has Enduro here, or the Tri, which has Ascent here, Enduro there, the quad gets Ascent, which means you're getting torque vectoring. You're getting independent power at each wheel, which just allows for, you know, better power distribution, right? More power because there's an additional motor, torque vectoring, better control off-road, and that's what pretty much makes the quad great. I'm curious to see how the Gen 1 quad compares to the Gen 2 quad off-road. Of course, the Gen 2 quad, more power. Origin is the name of the original motor that Rivian was using in the Gen 1 quads. It was made by Bosch, or Bosch, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yeah, Gen 2 quads are coming, and we're getting Tank Turn. Now, one of my personal wishes, I wish the Gen 2 quads actually were like more up the ante. I've mentioned this in other videos, but yeah, like, I wish there was more sway in the suspension and maybe make it a little bit thicker. You know, the only thing that we know about now about the Gen 2 quads, different paint exterior, different paint interior, different wheels. And so there are these other options that make the Gen 2 quad a little different than the Tri, but it being $15,000 to $20,000 more expensive, it makes it hard to sell the quad when the Tri is right there. You get the range, you get the power, and how many people want to pay that much more for a vehicle that's just marginally better? So more things that differentiate the Tri motor and the quad motor, like K-turn, would be a pretty good thing. We want to see more of that, Rivian. We want to see more things that differentiate the Gen 2 quad, because then you have more people that are interested in Gen 2 quad. But I feel bad for all of you Gen 1 owners. That's really it. Something that I didn't touch on was one of the reasons Rivian says that they didn't introduce a full tank turn was because it's destructive to the environment. You are having your vehicle, 7,000 pound vehicle, kick up and move the dirt. And if you do this on a protracted trail, for instance, you could, be destroying the environment, hurting the environment that insects and animals live in. And so they don't want to see that happen. However, we do have vehicles like the Mercedes G580, the electric G-Wagon, as well as the BYD Yangwang U8, which also have quad motor vehicles, and they also have a tank turn of sorts. Yangwang BYD calls it tank turn, Mercedes calls it G-turn, but it's essentially the exact same thing. And so it's interesting. Rivian says, no, we're not going to do it, but they are going to introduce K-turn, while other companies do introduce a full tank turn. But as it relates to quad, right, we're expecting a $116,990 starting price, somewhere around in that ballpark for the R1T, and then, right, standard Dune, with the wheels that you see on the Dune, those will be standard on the quad, and that's really it so far, right? Same Ascend interiors, so those premium interiors. We might be getting some other paint options, some other wheel options. We will know more July 8th, and of course, you'll expect a video here on the Rivian Updates channel talking all about it. Anyway, again, let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. My name is Isaiah, this is Rivian Updates, and I'll see you guys in the next one.